Today in Algebra 1, we're going to really take a look at graphing radical functions. In order to do that, though, we really need to look at all of the family of functions that we've looked at throughout this class. So, first of all, you're going to see 6 graphs that come up. 5 that are review. The 6th one will be the radical functions that we're going to cover today. So first of all, this would be a good time to hit pause if you need to write all of this down. But I'm just going to kind of do an overview of these and move on. First of all, linear is the function that you probably spent the most time on in Algebra 1A, graphing lines. When your slope is positive, your m is positive, your line's increasing. When your m is negative, your slope is negative, it's decreasing. Now quadratic. Quadratic are the ones with the x squared. Axis of symmetry is x equals negative b over 2a. And if the a value in front of x squared is positive, it opens up. If the a value is negative in front of the x squared, it opens down. Exponential functions. First of all, if your b value, the number that has the x as the exponent, is bigger than 1, it's going to be growth. If the b value is between 0 and 1, then it's going to be decay. So it starts out here and goes down. Now the x-axis in both of these acts as an asymptote, which basically means that it's an imaginary boundary line. So it can get closer and closer and closer out here and down here to the x-axis, but it'll never quite touch it. Okay, next one's absolute values. These are absolute value lines. So if my absolute value has a positive number in front of it, it's going to open up. If my absolute value has a negative number in front of it, it's going to open down. Now with this one, with your square root, if your square root is positive in front, it's going to open up. And if the square root has a negative number in front of it, it's going to open down. Now listen, quadratic, absolute value, and square root. If something is positive, it opens up. If something is negative, it opens down. That's been the same pattern. Now, in this one, there are 3 values that are really going to matter. All 3 of those. So if I find A, B, and C, that's going to give me information to graph this. If A is positive, when I make these asymptote lines here, if A is positive, it's going to be in this quadrant and this one. If A is negative, it's going to go in the other 2. Whatever the B value is, that's going to determine this vertical asymptote line that runs up and down. Whatever C value is, it's going to make a horizontal asymptote. Now, just like we talked about with the other ones, because these are asymptote lines, as they go in this direction and this direction, they're going to get closer and closer and closer to those dashed lines, but never quite touch it. Same thing up here. Now, I actually want to go through a couple of these so you can see how to graph them. So actually, I'm going to skip right to this one. Here is my equation. And here's the general one that they had on there. And I'm going to use a highlighter technique to kind of help us. First of all, I can tell A is 4. The B value is 3, because it's x minus B. So x minus B, so B would have to be 3. Now when I go looking for the C value, there isn't one, which means it must have been 0. So just like we used to do with quadratics, I'm actually going to make a list here and do A, B, and C. A is 4, B is 3, and C is 0. So first of all, if A is 4, that's positive. Means my graph is going to be in those 2 quadrants. If my B value is 3, that means x equals 3 is going to be my vertical asymptote. If C equals 0, that means y equals 0 is a horizontal asymptote. Now, if I were going to graph this, the first thing that I would do is make my x and y axis. And please label them. You're going to have other vertical and horizontal lines going on. You don't want to screw that up. Now, my vertical asymptote is at -3, so that's in the x equals. So x equals 3 would be right there. And then that means I have a dashed line that goes there. Now if I look at y equals 0, on the y-axis 0 is right here. So that's actually going to sit right on top of the x-axis. Now this is basically what it means. If it's in these two quadrants, then my graph is going to be here and here. Pretty straightforward. Let's try one more. Okay, so here is my equation they gave me. And here's my general equation. So A is 4, C is 3. B is kind of an issue for us because it's supposed to be x minus b, and this isn't x minus b. The only way that plus sign could have happened there is if it had been this to begin with, which means that b is going to have to be negative 4. So A is 4, B is negative 4, and C is 3. Because this is a positive 4, it's going to go in those two quadrants. X equals negative 4 is going to be my vertical asymptote. And y equals 3 is going to be my horizontal asymptote. Okay, so I'm going to start by making my x and y axis and labeling it. X equals negative 4 means that out here, 1, 2, 3, 4. Just changing my line so it's easier for you to see. It's my 4. I'm going to have y equals positive 3. So on the y-axis, I'm going to count up positive 3.